Good morning. Or evening. It's afternoon here, really. What do we got? Nerf guy on the beach. Sam! Fancy meeting you here. Alright. I'm here to sort darts. I've been booped. I object. How is everybody this fine Friday evening, morning, afternoon, whatever time zone you happen to be in? I'm doing alright. I don't have any plans for this weekend, and that's glorious. I am hoping to get some cleaning done here in the shop. It's a bit of a mess. Yeah, there was a Mega XL. We did have a couple of people using it. We also, during the HVZ, we introduced some Survival Fest style zombies. Ones that can only be taken out by Mega or Mega XL. And we did, of course, provide them with a Mega XL blaster and a Mega blaster. The Mega XL blaster worked great. The Mega blaster that I grabbed, nary so much. It was that double barrel shotgun Mega blaster and only one of the barrels worked. So I don't know that anyone bothered to try to use it, though. There was at least one person who did have a Mega blaster. They had a Mega Ultra 2, so semi-automatic, 5 rounds, definitely helped hold off that red-vested zombie. Let's see, I gotta work tomorrow, but Sunday is all mine. Very good. Just left a workshop. Nice. What kind of root beer? I am going to be sipping a bottle of Old Brooklyn Williamsburg today. I have had a bottle of it before, so it's not brand new, but it is one of the newer ones. I didn't have it prior to my recent great root beer hunt. And then with dinner, I will be trying a brand new one. I've got a bottle of Three Stooges Wise Guy root beer that I have been told by a somewhat dubious source isn't very good. So we'll see what I think of it. I'll have a bottle of something else, probably Thomas Kemper, standing by should it prove undrinkable, which I doubt. But you never know. I have had some really bad root beers. Yeah, I think it was the double breach. The one with the sliding door on the side, holds 2 rounds, pump action. Just a massively unnecessary thing. Unnecessarily massive thing. Forgot to ask. I have an H harness that I'm making, and I'm gonna attach a sling to it. Should I put it above or below where the stock sits on the shoulder? I would put it above. But that's mostly just because that's where mine is. It kind of depends on where the sling attaches and how you want it to hang and all of that. Where you want to put it is the spot on the H harness that is the most stable, as it were. So, like, if I'm not sure what your H harness looks like, but it's gonna be potentially gonna be bearing the weight of the blaster, so it needs to be in a place that isn't gonna pull it off your shoulder or disrupt things. For my sling, I actually have it attached for my heavy rig. It actually attaches all the way on the back and then comes up and over the shoulder, which helps distribute the weight. How do I feel about homemade root beer? Well, I have all the stuff to do it, and I've done it once. I've got a bunch of different root beer syrups. I have a soda stream, so I can carbonate the water. I haven't found the time, I suppose, or the need, on account of root beer is rather ubiquitous here in America. I haven't found the need to actually sit down and work out a recipe. And I really oughta, because I really like root beer. Though, I have learned what may be the key element that might get me to start making my own root beer, which is that with all the different root beers that I've tried, I'm up to 140, I think, now. I have discovered that I really like the root beers that have honey in them. So, Sprecher is a honey-based root beer. Thomas Kemper, Bear Whiz, the one that I just had yesterday, that was sent to me from Detroit, the Kunin Grandma Hen. It was very, very good. Sparky's. I had Sparky's just the other day, too, for the first time, and it is a honey-based. And it's in my all my top 5 favorite root beers, basically, are honey-based root beers. So that's clearly what I need to put into mine. I'm also a huge fan of wintergreen, and apparently wintergreen is a flavor that's used in a lot of root beers. So I kind of want to try that. See how honey wintergreen root beer works. Mix the different extracts I have and try different formulas. I have had some homemade root beers that people made. One of them, it showed up. It had clearly they got it carbonated by having it ferment just a little bit. So it was dubious, but it actually wasn't bad. Also, yes, Fomando, feel free to put your 2 cents in on where you would put a sling mount based on, again, we don't know the design of your H-harness, so ultimately, the best option would be design the H-harness so that the sling can go in a number of different places, and then test it with the sling in a bunch of different places, and figure out where you like it. And it might be different from one blaster to the other. Like a heavy rifle, you might want it mounted in one place, whereas a lighter SMG, you might want it mounted someplace else. So, key is experimentation. What do we got? Arrays at work. Excellent. Mr. Mole Rat? What's the most expensive root beer? Ooh. I'm not sure. I can't think of any that were particularly expensive. I've gotten some large bottles, so that kind of skews that result. But I don't think I've ever had anything that was much more than $4, maybe? $4 a bottle? Usually it's closer to $1.25 a bottle or less. Some of the stuff I've ordered online has been like $3 a bottle, but I was having it shipped from Iowa, so Fortnite Legendary Attack. Yeah, actually that would have been a good option. It does have that built-in magazine. I mean, I also could have gone with, Roto Fury. Or Megalodon? I think it's the Megalodon. What's the average difference between Mega Mega XL and Demolisher as a gameplay mechanic? It varies from group to group. So we used to have 3 different ammo types. We had small, medium, and large. And pretty much the only thing that was medium was Mega. Everything else above Mega, well, and throwables. Throwables counted as medium, I believe. And then all the larger stuff, Mega XL originally, as well as Demolisher rockets, and anything above was heavy. And the mechanical difference was that Mega pierced shield, so if a Mega hit your shield, it counted as a tag, but it didn't destroy your shield. Whereas the bigger stuff, Demolisher rockets and whatnot, would actually destroy the shield for the rest of that round. You couldn't use it anymore. And we did that for a couple of years, and then this last year, we decided to simplify things. And we got rid of the heavy ammo type entirely. And so we just have 2 ammo types, small and large. And all large ammo pierces shields. Nothing destroys the shield, because we didn't find it necessary to have a way to permanently destroy the shield. So we just went with anything that's larger than, Mega and above, all simply count as a tag if it hits your shield. We did retain the rule that anything in your hand counts as a shield. So your melee weapon, your blaster, whatever, if it gets hit by a large ammo type, then it counts as a tag. But if it's hit by a smaller ammo type, it isn't. So you can block stuff with your sword, and blaster tags don't count. But other groups may be doing it differently. Some groups may still have ammo that destroys shields or does other fancy things. We considered all kinds of things. We when we were toying with changing the rules, we did consider having different spawn times. So getting hit with a larger ammo type on your shield would make you spawn longer, but that didn't seem like a good mechanic, and we considered where it only took the shield out for your next spawn, but that again became dubious to enforce and dubious for people to have to keep track of, and so ultimately we just decided to go with the simple rule of only having the 2 ammo types. And I support it, as long as there is some mechanism to counter shields, because otherwise they get broken fast. So I made it myself. Oh, excellent, yeah. Love me some Sprecher. My local frozen custard shop uses Sprecher in their root beer floats. Oh, Sprecher makes a good root beer float. How much is my collection? My collection of what? I got a lot of collections. I got Nerf collections, I got Lego collections, I got root beer bottle collections. Twin Shock is a fabulous Mega Blaster. I've got a modified one that's got a stock attachment point and a better grip, and I like it. Nerf loadout reviews from what channel? I definitely haven't seen them. I've seen a lot of Nerf loadouts. I've made a lot of Nerf loadouts. I would love to see other people's ideas. Got a damaged one. Nerf guns and I haven't the foggiest idea because I don't have even a vague estimate for how many Nerf blasters I have. I have absolutely no idea. I've made that video. People ask me, how many Nerf blasters do you have? And I'll be honest with you, I have no idea. And I've gotten a lot more since I made that video. Thousands and thousands of dollars. And that's just in like my high-end blasters, my Pew Pew and my Stinger and my FDL3 and my SBF and SPLs and Harriers and Swifts and Nightingales and never mind the bulk, the stuff I just have in bins and storage. No, I do not keep a spreadsheet. That would be very, very tedious and hard to keep track of. I do have a spreadsheet now of all the root beers in my collection, and I do plan to actually make that public. I'm putting out an official bounty video calling on all of you fine folk to find me root beers I have not had and send them to me or bring them to me. And to make that a lot easier, I will be publishing my list of all the root beers that I have, that I know I have, so you know which ones not to send me because I already have them. I also do have a list of root beers that I know exist that I don't have, and that I haven't yet found, either in person or online, or I did find them online, but the shipping was redonkulous. The root beer is $2, the shipping is $7. Alright. Think we're down to the half darts here. Oh. More full length sneaking in there. Did I just fling a... No, that's just a really light dart. One last pass. Trying to pull out any blown off heads. Sneaky full lengths. I wonder if I can make this chat any bigger. Well, we'll go the other way around then. Give me a moment. I'm going to... The chat is small and I have old eyes. Yes, I saw the new LMG. It looks pretty awesome. Looking forward to actually getting my hands on one. I ought to reach out to my contact at Dart Zone and ask them why they haven't been sending me stuff. One bin down. 4 to go. But only one of them is super full. All right. Favorite blaster of the now vintage original N-Strike series? Stampede. Easy question. Stampede. Maybe the Vulcan was also good. Barricade. Stampede and the Barricade were my first two blasters that I bought when I first got into Nerf as a hobby. Way back in the day. Who my idol is? I don't have an idol, honestly. Yeah, I did at one point. I had, I don't think I ever put together an actual spreadsheet, but I did have a list of all the vintage blasters that I was working on collecting. I don't really bother with that now because there's only one blaster left on the list, and that's the Slingfire DX400 that I now know exists because somebody found one and sent it to Walcom, which was the right thing to do because Walcom has been working on a much more complete collection than mine. My collection only goes as far as, I think, 2007, and then I ran out of wall, so I didn't bother to collect after that, where he is going for one of every blaster for an encyclopedic collection. So I'm glad it went to him, because his collection is the bigger and more important one, in my opinion. But I would love to get my hands on a Slingfire DX400. They are ridiculously rare. So if anybody happens to have one, why don't you have players help you sort dart at the end of the game? We used to. That used to be a thing. Everyone would sit around the stump at the end of Fort Borst games, and they would sort all the darts. And that just kind of stopped happening for some reason. And I find sorting darts to be very cathartic, very calming, great way to wind down the week. Plus it gives me an excuse to, hold this, live stream, chat to you while I sort darts. But, oh, how did that sneak through this long? Lowberries in the loaner bin. Can't have that. Is that Swamp Cat making that noise? No, that's my neighbors being trash as usual. Swamp Cat is currently in the house enjoying the cold and solitude. She was out here for a while, but she wanted to go in the house and get food, which is fair. Do you think Rival will make a comeback, or do you think it's officially KO'd? I don't think we've seen the end of Rival. I hope we haven't seen the end of Rival. It's too good a series for them to just drop. But you never know. I've quit trying to make any sense out of what Hasbro does these days, because so many of their choices just don't make any sense. So dropping Rival would be par for the course on their endless quest to fumble everything. Not getting the Vulcan, yeah. Yes, I saw your question on who my idol is. I don't have an idol. There is no single person that I idolize. There just isn't. Your barbecue came. I want barbecue. Barbecue's delicious. I did have some really good barbecue recently, so that's I'll survive. What about Billy Idol? I don't know that I've ever heard any of his music, or at least I couldn't name any of his music. He was a musician, right? You have any idea how much an original full-length Select-Fire FDL3 is worth? Probably around $500 at least. I think I got mine for $375 directly from Project FDL, but that I might have gotten the YouTuber discount. I actually don't know. Though mine isn't Select Fire. Mine, I have the semi-auto. I don't know. The Select Fire one's more expensive, so I think that's. I have a Select Fire half dart one that I got for $500, but I had to smuggle it in from Denmark. So luckily, Customs didn't ask any questions about it. Do you have anything to declare? Nope. Nothing. Nothing to see here, officers. Yeah, but they dropped 50 cal dart. Yeah, exactly. That's entirely my point. Them dropping the standard dart after however long it's been since they first developed it is just madness. I mean, it's corporate shenaniganery at its worst. The planned obsolescence, making their own old blasters no longer compatible with their own new stuff, is just. I mean, on the one hand, I am fully aware that backwards compatibility is the single greatest hindrance to advancement in pretty much all technology. But they didn't develop a better dart. I mean, N1 darts aren't any better in any particular way than standard darts, and they're definitely inferior to half darts. So why Hasbro didn't abandon, didn't just lean into full-length dart or half darts like everybody else is. Like I said, I don't understand their choices. But I am pondering these things from somebody in the hobby, not somebody profiting off the hobby. So, look, little fella, I'm trying to save your life. I'd rather not kill you, but you're gonna get yourself killed in here. Huh. Neat. I think I've heard some Jessica Simpson music. Yeah, 1,200 I would say is a bit crazy, but at the same time, they're not being made anymore. It is possible. All of the files are all open source. The code is all open source. It's sourcing the hardware and knowing how to program and solder Arduino and all of that. That's the tricky part. It's a lot easier to make a semi-automatic one. But the Select Fire one obviously has the bells and the whistles. I am very glad I got the ones I got when I got them. The other argument for it being worth that much is I still haven't found something better. I have been having my eye out, and I've paid a lot of money for a lot of fancy blasters in the hopes that I might find a newer blaster, an equally reliable and tunable and functional blaster to my FDL3, and I simply haven't. Project FDL knew what they were doing. They designed an incredible blaster. It's a shame things went the way they did. Alright. Because I would have loved to see what the FDL4 and FDL5, where those would have gone, the additional features, the better, I would have loved to have seen where they took it, if they'd done at least one more iteration. So many half darts. Oh, God, be gone. Have a good evening. Yeah, but again, the files are open source. I could reprint the red parts in black or in orange and be set. But I already have to. In fact, I already reprinted a bunch of the parts for my FDL in order to make it have a long enough lower section on the barrel so that I could mount a foregrip. And I reprinted a bunch of the ones for the one I got in Denmark because it was mostly black and I needed some more color on it. The Red Recon. Nice. I've got a couple of red Recons. I got one with a metal internal kit in it somewhere. I will keep that in mind. Yeah, making the Elite Blasters not, or some of the Elite Blasters not work with old streamlines, that is a choice I understand. Because, again, mostly it's corporate shenaniganery. Because a lot of Hasbro's profit margin actually comes from the sale of darts, not from the sale of blasters. Because people always have to buy more darts, and darts cost practically nothing to make, but they charge a major upcharge on them. And so forcing everyone to replace all of their darts when they went from Elite to Elite 2.0. You know, okay, fair play. And Elite darts were better than Streamline darts. As much grief as we give Elite darts for not being accurate, they were much, much better than old Streamlines. It was night and day difference. And the thing is, Elite darts work fine at the speeds they were designed to go at. They weren't designed to go 120 feet per second. They were designed to go 75, 80 FPS. And at that FPS, they work fine. It's when you exceed what they're designed for that then they get real bad real quick. Did you get the Yeet Hammer Demolisher Rocket Fire? Yes, I did. The problem is I don't have a printer that can print it. My printer does not have a tall enough print bed to print it. And I didn't want to just cut down the post. My plan was to make one the old-fashioned way of using like CPVC or something, printing a shell and then having a post that goes into it. Because I'd rather not have a 3D printed post because, one, they're ribbed, which is going to cause additional friction. They're also very fragile. So I will come up with something. I could do brass, I suppose. Or I could line the post in metal. Or you know what would make a really good Demolisher rocket barrel combo? Would be make a shell, put a metal barrel in it, just any, you know, high-powered blaster barrel, make it so it fits that, and then put a worker scar barrel on the end. That will fit, well, that will fit Mega XL, not Demolisher rocket. I'll come up with something. I'll figure something out. I mean, you could do that too. Feel free to mail me one. That would be awesome. And then I'll figure out what I want to do with it. If I want to reinforce it or something. Do I have a favorite Dart Zone blaster? Yeah, I think my favorite blaster the Dart Zone has come out with so far is the Tomcat. There's just something very, very pleasant about it. I love that it takes a drum. I love that we can easily make an adapter to make it take magazines. I like the form factor. I like the sound of it, the amount of power it has. It's just all around a really nice blaster. Now I'm finding all the rival. Had a couple of people at this last event running some high-capacity rival blasters, and I'm always leery of that because in the past there has been a very bad habit of people filling up their rival hopper from the loaner bin and then leaving with it still full, and the rival loaner bin getting low as a result. Whereas we have the opposite problem with full-length darts and half darts, in that they just keep showing up. And I need to be a little bit more aggressive in getting rid of worn-out ones. Because a lot of these darts are worn to the point that they don't work well, and there's just no reason to keep them around. See, I like the Outlaw. It's really nice. I mean, we'd wanted a high-powered hammer prime blaster for a while, and Dart Zone gave it to us. And I do need to get a bunch more as loaner blasters because they're so easy to use. You don't have to worry about, you know, it's very hard for people to jam them. But I like the Tomcat more. Hey, General Strife, welcome to the stream. I'm sorting darts, as one does on a Friday night when you don't have anything better to do. Well, I'm doing well. Sorting darts, sipping root beer. Got a good one. Old Brooklyn Williamsburg root beer. It's really quite good. Nothing particularly outstanding about it, but it's absolutely solid. I would never turn it down unless there were better options. I think it would make a good root beer shake. It's got that little extra, kind of that bite that Barks has that makes Barks, in my opinion, the best root beer for making a shake out of. There are definitely better root beers for making root beer floats with, I think. Though I did have a root beer recently that I didn't much care for by itself, but it made a really good root beer float, and I unfortunately don't remember which root beer it was. It might be in my notes. It might not. My notes are not very comprehensive. I just kind of mentioned, I liked this one. I didn't like this one. Barges? It's got a Q. I've always pronounced it Barks, but to be fair, I never met Mr. Bark on account of he died 100 years ago. Barks is in fact one of the oldest root beers. As far as I know, the oldest commercially available root beer was Hires, which is still available today. Unfortunately, not available in a glass bottle anymore, that I'm aware of. If anybody knows otherwise, by all means, send me a bottle of Hires. Filled this up again. Oh, you thought it was spelled that way? Yeah, no. I mean, that does make sense. I wonder if that's why they went with that tagline. I kind of doubt it. I mean, I know it's just named after the guy who invented it. But it is one of the few major root beers that has caffeine. Most root beers do not have caffeine. There are some that do. I believe Henry Weinhard's does. And Sprecher makes a specific caffeinated version of their root beer. And I have one that it's an espresso root beer, and I keep meaning to try it, but I've never. I'm worried it's gonna taste like root beer with burnt bean juice in it. But I mean, I don't actually have to drink the whole bottle. I can just sip it and say I've had it and put the bottle in the collection. Pardon me, I believe there's a package. Over here!
Hey, how's it going?
Going well.
Good. There you are. You're welcome. Thank you. Have a good day.
Sparky called it. He has sent me happiness. Fabulous. Yeah, I don't drink coffee. I don't drink alcohol. I do occasionally drink tea, but not caffeinated tea. But to be fair, I don't actually know that the espresso root beer is going to taste like coffee. It might just be that they put a shot of caffeine in it. I will be... You know what? I've finished this bin, so yeah, I could open the package. Or I dump the half-darts. Oh no, this half-dart bin is full. Oh yeah, no, that's full. 27 gallons of half-darts. We'll start on the next 27 gallons of half-darts. Where's my knife? Alright, what's going on? $6 for 100 X-Shot half-darts. Ooh, the X-Shot half-darts are nice. What is the difference between root beer and sarsaparilla? Flavor and what they're made out of, usually. But ultimately, in my opinion, or in my findings, root beer, sarsaparilla, and birch beer are all basically the same. Said knife instantly demonetized. Yeah, probably. Well, like I said, the first 27 gallons of half-darts. I have two 27-gallon totes of half-darts, and then overflow. I only have two 17-gallon bins of full-length darts. But I'm actually planning to up that to 27 potentially today. We'll see. The really weird thing about sarsaparilla is the fact that it's pronounced sarsaparilla and not sarsaparilla like it's spelled. Alright, what do we got? Sparky hath sent me... Oh! This isn't from Sparky. This is from Lego. I bought a whole bunch of minifig parts, heads, helmets, legs, breastplates, shields. And as a result of my acquisition, I got the gift with purchase. This is a tribute to Jane Austen's books. So it's a book, which is awesome. It will go on my shelf of Lego books. And this will go towards the endless army building. The army building that never ends. I have recently acquired a genuinely obscene amount of minifig parts from illicit sources. Lego saw fit after years of no new castle factions to give us 4 new castle factions in 1 year. So I'm building 6 new armies. For reasons. A gingerbread AT-AT. I've seen people who did that online. Did I make a gingerbread AT-AT? I think I did once. I want to say I did one for a competition and won. And I've seen people do gingerbread stuff in Lego, but I did not know they were doing an official one. That is hilarious. Yes, my backlog of unbuilt sets is embarrassing at this point as well. I did get the mini ball gunball machine. I bought it in Salt Lake City when I was visiting Sergeant Deplorable. And it is fantastic. I have taken all the figs out and I have replaced them in the machine with Lego hard candy that I got at Winco. Aha! Amazon says next week. Very good. How many troops do your armies currently stand at? Combined, they're a bit over 5,000 now. I had 24 different factions, and each one had at least 100. Some have close to 400 now. And then I'm adding 6 more, so I'll be up to 30 factions. The 4 new factions that Lego came out with, the Krakens, the Griffins, the Horse Knights, and the Black Snakes. And then I'm also finally going to go ahead and finish making a Viking faction to counter the Krakens, and another horse faction, which is basically going to be the Riders of Rohan. Because they're white on a green background, as opposed to the white on the blue background of the Horse Knights faction. No, you never have enough army. That's how armies work. Flying moon car. Interesting. The machine actually has a surprisingly complex mechanism. Like you have to put a little Lego coin in to make it rotate, and it can't rotate backwards, and it was surprisingly complex. I was pleased with how it worked. I don't know where I could possibly set up all 30 of my armies at once. That would take a lot of space. Plus, they're not built. I need a lot more horses because of because of how much cavalry my armies have. Because they're all very well-rounded armies. So they all have light cavalry, heavy cavalry, light, medium, and heavy infantry, archers. Some have super heavy cavalry like war elephants or dragons. Some have super heavy infantry like trolls. Yeah, it's a cool machine. What I want to get, I'm hoping they'll eventually hit the pab wall, is I want to get more of the balls, because they don't give you enough to actually fill the machine completely. So I'd like to get a few more. I also want lots more of the 2 castle figs, which thankfully they should eventually show up on the pab wall. It'll probably be in a couple of months. I don't think... I mean, if I had it on all of the floors, on all of the workbenches, I might be able to get all of my armies. But that would be a lot of work lugging them all downstairs. I didn't get the new one. I have one of the old ones that somebody sent me in fan mail, I think. The minifig scale one. I have that one somewhere in a drawer. I remember watching a lot of Power Rangers in my youth at My family had never had regular television. It was just not something we were ever interested in. So the only time I ever got to watch just TV was when I visited friends. And I had a friend that I'd go over to his place and we'd play with Lego and watch Power Rangers. Also played a lot of Mario Kart with him. Old Super Nintendo Mario Kart. I'm a very old man. The most I have spent was for the AT-AT, the big AT-AT. And that was because I had sworn years ago, and this was Lego calling my bluff, I would never shell out $800 for one Lego set unless it was a UCS AT-AT. I didn't get the Star Destroyers, I didn't get the Millennium Falcon, I didn't get the Death Star, any of the other big UCS sets, mostly because I didn't have the money. But I did say that if they ever came out with a UCS AT-AT that I would buy it, and Lego called my bluff. So there I was on Black Friday in line at a Lego store. No Eiffel Tower, though I have built one. I built the original one for bricks and wheels. Which I still have some of their stuff. I need to get back to them. I built they sent me home with 3 partly completed Technic sets, big old Technic sets, and I got them as complete as I could. They were all missing some key parts, though. 99% of the parts were there, but that last 1% of those Technic sets was important. Let's see. Good 3D printed blasters. Now you're wanting to acquire them, or are you wanting to print them and build them yourself? Because those are 2 very different questions. No, not really. I haven't missed anything. Don't worry about it. Yeah, that is kind of interesting. See, rather than remake everything, I do like the idea of sequel everything. Making more Alien movies, making more Predator movies, making more Terminator movies. Oh, I think we kind of burned out on the Terminator. They're doing good stuff with Predator, though. Oh, Prey was magnificent. I hear the cartoon that came out, Killers of Killers, is great. There's another movie coming out. Alien Romulus was excellent. I really liked how it connected the Prometheus storyline into the Ripley storyline. Good stuff there. A lot of good Star Wars, finally, again. I'm slowly making my way through Andor. I'm hoping tonight to cook some pizza and binge watch the last of Season 2 of Andor, and then watch Rogue One. Yeah, the Back to the Future would be tough to do because I don't know you'd be able to get any of the original actors, which would be tough. I mean, you technically could. I don't think they're dead. Is Christopher Lloyd dead? You'd think he'd be dead by now, but I don't recall hearing that he died. Ghostbusters. The alternate universe one was rough. I really liked the sequels though, but I think they could hold off for a while. Ballerina was a fabulous addition to the John Wick universe, in my opinion. I thought it was great. I really enjoyed it. Saw that one in theater. I thought so, yeah. New Star Trek? Um, I still don't understand why they felt the need to do a reboot of the original universe when there were so many other spin offs. That was the one thing that I thought Star Trek did really well that took the Star Wars folks a while to catch on to is that it doesn't always need to be about the original core group. It doesn't all need to be Skywalker Saga. It is such an incredibly interesting and rich universe. Just give us completely new stuff set in the Star Wars universe and we'll love it. It doesn't need to be linked to the original. Give us Old Republic. Give us, Jedi back when there was a cable connecting the lightsaber to a battery pack on the belt. Give us the old stuff. But yeah, Star Trek, they went Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, which all take place at one point or another at the same time, and they all have crossovers, and that's cool. And then they gave us stuff that happened before and stuff that happened after, and yeah. Same thing with Star Wars. I mean, Mandalorian was originally not part of the Skywalker saga, though it's been drug into it. Book of Boba Fett was, largely not involved, but drug into it. Andor is pre-Skywalker, kind of. I mean, we haven't seen a Skywalker. We haven't seen a lightsaber yet. And I don't know if we do. I haven't finished Andor yet, so don't spoil it for me. Yeah, see, I think we could happily have a series that treated pod racing like F1, you know. All of the drama, there's more than enough drama in the pod racing place. People die all the time. There's loads of drama that don't need to be part of the greater war. It's just part of stuff that took place in the universe. Huh. Wacky fun. I've got a whole bin full of weird shaped darts. Weird thicknesses, weird lengths. Some are hollow, some aren't. Some have hollow tip darts, some have suction cups. Yes, I was actually a huge fan of Dragon Ball back when I was in college. And at one point I torrented all of Dragon Ball Z. And I was gonna do a marathon as soon as finals were over. And then during finals week, the hard drive that I had stored them all on died. And I never did get to finish the series. Um, See, yes, a David Attenborough style documentary on the flora and fauna of the various planets in Star Wars. I'd watch the heck out of that. That would be fantastic. I have seen all of Dragon Ball Abridged. So there's that. And then it got weird. I think I saw most of Dragon Ball GT, which apparently doesn't count, which is a shame because I really liked it. Yeah, I'm still around. You haven't gotten rid of me yet. I do have a bunch of new videos. I've got them filmed. I just need to finish editing them. There's one I need to redo the intro because I think I did the intro 2 or 3 times and I got the name of the blaster wrong every single time. Yeah, see here, I saw something recently that was a really good point. They need to not make remakes of good movies. They need to make remakes of good ideas that were made into bad movies. There's all kinds of like, this could have been a great movie, but they just executed it horribly, or the acting was bad, or the directing was bad, or the dialogue was bad. Take some of those and make them into good movies. Quit taking good movies and just remaking them. It's unnecessary. The blaster was the free runner. I was sent a free runner by Out of Darts, and I couldn't stop calling it the Forerunner. And there is a blaster called a Forerunner. It's just not that one. I might make a blooper reel at the end. So you know what would be a really neat series is the Droid Revolution. Because there's been more than one droid revolt in Star Wars. There was one way back in the day that got put down by the Jedi, and then there was one that R2 and 3PO were involved in. And that could be some interesting lore. In my understanding, that's why they wiped robots' memories, because what causes a robot to become sentient is experience. The longer they live, the more they learn. They're like humans, and that you learn, through time. And if you just keep wiping their memories, then it resets them to their factory defaults, and they don't ever attain true sentience like R2 has. R2's never had his memory wiped. He was there for the birth and death of Luke and Leia. And possibly, given that he was Padme's security droid at the time, he might have been there for their conception. That droid's seen some stuff. Yeah, the How to Train Your Dragon seemed unnecessary because the animation was like the dragons look exactly the same. And half it's the same voice actors for some of them. So I mean, you're just like, why? What are you doing? See, the problem with Dune is there wasn't a robot revolution in Dune. They didn't have humanoid robots that rose up. They rose up. It was the AI like we have that was the problem in Dune, and it's the same problem we're having of that they're using AI to replace skilled tech workers. And they're having us train our replacements. It's very, very dystopian how much they're pushing AI in the tech world. And yeah, the quote from Frank Herbert, from Dune, once man turned their thinking over to machines in the hope that it would set them free, but it only allowed other men with machines to enslave them. Yeah. The Matrix, on the other hand, yeah, that one. The problem, the thing about the one on the Matrix is, even in the Animatrix, they showed a lot of it, and it was dark, and it was gory, and it was terrifying, and you leave it kind of going, yeah, the humans had it coming. Yeah, we are just the worst. Yeah, see, Marvel did a whole What If series, and there are some really interesting What If comic book lines for Star Wars. There was one, what if Darth Vader killed Luke on at the Battle of Yavin? And so it ends up being Leia who has to find Yoda, and Yoda comes and kills the Emperor and drops the Death Star on Coruscant using the Force. And other ones of what if they had saved Darth Vader, and that's where the all white Darth Vader comes from, is that he gets redeemed and lives. Fascinating concepts in there. That's a series I never finished. I don't remember how many of the Transformer movies I saw. I don't know if they're all one continuous storyline. Yeah, there's a lot of fun stuff on YouTube. You know, yeah, humans' tendency to pack bond with anything does suggest that we would be nice, but you have to remember capitalism. There are capitalists that don't treat people like people, much less they're going to treat a robot like people. No, I've had that play button for a very long time now. I got that when I still lived in Tacoma. I've had it at least 6 years. Yes, I am looking forward to the belt fed. It's not actually a minigun, though. It's more of an SMG. It doesn't have a rotating barrel, does it? Does it have a rotating barrel and I'm just mad? I thought it had a regular barrel. Don't toy with my emotions. Alright, back to sorting darts. Bin number the fourth one. Personally, I thought it looked more like a Maxim gun without the water cooling bit. MG. Yeah, there we go. Oh, there's all kinds of stuff in here. A lot of Adventure Force waffle, fair number of old elites, chili darts, AccuFakes, those things. We got it all. No end of waffle heads. Whatever these blue tipped ones are. Is that X-Shot? I have been sent a number of small-scale versions of myself with miniguns. Somebody previously asked my opinion about a 3D printed blaster, and I wanted to know what kind they were looking for. Are you still in here? Because I would still like to answer that question. There are a lot of really cool 3D printed blasters. If you really like gimmicks, I would recommend the Smiley by Mighty Shrub. You can get them from Silver Fox Industries. If you like lever actions, or you already have the slab, If you like bolt actions, there's also the Cynthia, depending on what magazine you want to use, because there's different blasters take different magazines, of course. There's lots of pistols. The Blitz, if you want something with a solenoid. Flywheel with a solenoid. The Free Runner, if you prefer a mechanical. My video on those will be out soon. If you're looking for something with a lot of custom adjustability, the Excalibur will be out soon from Out of Darts. I've got one of those. Very easy spring swap. Huge variety of springs. Very solid, very svelte. Yeah, I thought they were X-Shot. We don't talk about real steel on this channel. This is a Nerf channel. Talking about real steel is a good way to get your channel shut down. Man, some of these darts are old. Pineapple slice discs? Pineapple slice discs. You lost me. Oh yeah, I've got a lot of small children as neighbors, and small children scream a lot. Especially when their parents only ever yell at them. Tends to teach them that screaming is the normal way to communicate. My neighbors are trash. I see. Yeah. I've got an old Star Wars bandolier with a bunch of those on it. And I do have... I've got at least 2 blasters that fired those. There were 2 Supermax blasters that fired the old foam pineapple discs. Yeah, the Silly Butts Excalibur. I've got one right there. I'd show it, but that also tends to get streams shut down. I think this has been going long enough. I'm probably in the clear. And it is almost entirely orange. Anyone in the chat planning to go to End War this year? I am not, because it's in July in North Carolina, and I don't want to. Probably not as bad as Georgia, but I will stay in my relatively cool and damp, temperate Pacific Northwest during the summer. Thank you very much. The Boxer is flywheel. It does have what looks like a giant spring on the side as on a sticker. And so, yeah, my first thought was, oh, cool, it's going to be an AEB. but then it has a rev trigger and there's a gap on the top of the belt. So now it's definitely flywheeler with a wheel pusher. Favorite weapon? I am a big fan of the bill. The bill hook. The English bill. It's just a wicked looking weapon, and I dig it. Anyone workshop that's more? I don't know of anybody that has a workshop quite like mine, having 8 full workstations, though I've never had them fully functional because plague upset all of my plans. And while it's more or less over now, I've still haven't gotten them spun back up. The plan was for this to be a hub, a nexus for local nerfing and hosting lots of events and makerspace builds and all of that, and it just hasn't happened. What stats would Ire and Tyr have in a Star Wars? Well, they fire foam, so I imagine they wouldn't be particularly effective. Unless there's an alien race with a rubber allergy. Yeah, if I had just a huge amount of money, if I'd, gotten stupid YouTube rich, I would definitely have considered buying or building a big old Nerf arena. Multi-floor, just big old thing. Catwalks and towers and tunnels and all that. Buy an old Kmart or something and turn it into a Nerf arena. But I'm not super rich, so that's not gonna happen. That is one of the beautiful things about Nerf, is it has the stigma of being super safe. Now, we've taken the Nerf hobby to a level where it certainly can be dangerous if you're not wearing proper, eye pro. But most people don't know that, and so they let us play in places they would never let someone play airsoft or paintball or something like that, because not only are we considered safe, it's easy to clean. You can pick up the darts. Picking up airsoft BBs, on the other hand, nary so much. Yeah, they make biodegradable ones, but until they biodegrade, they sure make a mess. And they do more damage. As for the stats, I have no idea. I don't know how stats work in the Star Wars role-playing game. Tyr is a minigun with a built-in rocket launcher, so whatever the stats are for a minigun with a built-in rocket launcher, and Ire is a battle rifle with a universal launching system. So, whatever that would be. I think I do. I don't think I have the ping pong one. I know I have. I think I've got the pool one and the golf one, but not really. The person I would reach out to would be Walcom. That would be something that would be more in his collection wheelhouse. He might be interested in having that. Alternatively, talk to General Strife. I think he was wanting to collect more weird Nerf stuff. I don't have any room for it on my wall, and if I had it, it's just going to collect dust in the attic. So there are other people that I would send it to first that would have a greater need, use, desire, interest. But thank you for the offer. I do appreciate it. Now, if you manage to thrift a Slingfire DX 400, that I would happily take. Yeah, and that's how the Stampede operates too. Interestingly, the blaster with a mechanism the most similar to the Stampede as far as how it actually operates is in fact the Centurion. The Centurion is essentially a giant manually operated Stampede. Also, don't believe the hype. The Centurion's not nearly as scary on the inside as people think it is. Something I would like to see somebody develop in Nerf is mechanical burst fire. Right now, we pretty much universally rely on using a flywheel blaster with an Arduino and using a solenoid or sensors or something. But I would love to see somebody figure out how to do one mechanically. So we could have a burst fire AEB. Alright. First bit of full length darts done. What are y'all hoping the big companies come out with next? I would love to see Dart Zone or Worker come out with an AEB. Obviously, looking forward to X Shots when it finally hits the market. I need to reach out to my contact at X Shot and go, hey, why did I get one of the one of the test ones? I would also love to see either Dart Zone or Worker or both make a lever action. I would love to see a lever action with Worker quality. I'd also love to see either of them get into brushless. Because if we could get the brushless, because that'd be the only way I'm going to get something that's going to replace my FDL3, is I would love to have an injection molded FDL3, which was what we were all hoping the Omnia was going to be, and then it wasn't. I don't think it would actually be that difficult to design an AEB that had a mechanical select fire. You would just have to have a timing gear of some kind that rotates with each firing and then eventually releases. And then the next time you pull the trigger, it cycles it again 3 times, or however many the burst is. And then for full auto, obviously, it's just always on. And for semi-auto, just have it switch to a different gear that only has one interrupt. Because I have an AEB that's semi and full, it just doesn't have a burst. Full auto Centurion. I mean, like I said, the Centurion was basically a Stampede, so all you would have had to do is put a big enough motor on it. But a massive mega AEB, that I could absolutely get behind. Alright. Oh. Any more fulls in here? I think we're good. Final bin! Always end up with more half darts than I started with. Where are they coming from? That's the full 54 gallons. And I still have this to sort. Yeah, there have been any number of air-powered Nerf blasters. There's obviously the Mag Strike. I don't remember what the other ones are called. But people have done all kinds of HPA and LPA setups where it was like. Dr. Pugh at one point built a semi-automatic Roto Fury, a semi-automatic Centurion that used HPA to prime. He built a semi-automatic Fortnite grenade launcher. All of that using HPA. But that's still not getting the power from the dart, so it's really no different than, an AEB where it's a motor that primes it. It's still technically self-reloading. Well, that's where all of these darts came from. I didn't pay for any of this stuff. This is all left over from 8 years of events. And I remember when we first made this, when half darts first hit the scene, the worker half darts became a thing. We had two guys that were running blasters that used them. I think they both had Caliburns. And at the end of every event, they would go through the dart bin and fastidiously recover as many of their half darts as they possibly could, because they only had a box of 100 each, and one had one color and one had the other color, so they could tell them apart. And then for a while, more people started getting half darts, and there were people that they wanted to make sure they got their darts back, and then people just quit caring. Yeah, people would bring darts to an event knowing that they weren't getting them back, and they were just piling up, and then we finally hit critical mass, and we were able to go to full loaner dart bins. And so the reason I'm kind of surprised that I get so much overflow is that this is from the Portland event, where we explicitly tell people, don't bring darts. We have tens of thousands of darts. We got you covered. Just bring your blasters, and if you don't have blasters, we've got loaner blasters. And yet I still end up with so much more than I started with, and it's kind of weird. Though I think I'm a bin short, because we also provide darts for the comp field, which is almost exclusively half dart. In fact, I believe it is now exclusively half dart, pretty much. And I think I ended up with the dart sweep from the comp field in my bins as well. Yes. Well, hello from the UK. A person from the UK. Hello from America. There is somebody who is developing a blaster. They reached out to me about it. I don't remember the exact specs, but it does have me intrigued. I am also looking forward to is it the Vanguard? Somebody showed it off at Maryland Mayhem, and they're in the process of printing me one. It uses an automatic car pump and a drain blaster and takes massive shells. but it'll fire Mega XL, it will fire 4 Mega, it will fire 27 half darts. And I'm hoping to develop a shell that will let it fire Demolisher rockets. Though, unless the dimensions of the blaster are altered, the only way to make a Demolisher rocket fit in the shell would be to trim the fins down a little. And I'm willing to do that on knockoff Demolisher rockets, which you can get on Amazon or AliExpress. I wouldn't want to trim the fins down on genuine Nerf Demolisher rockets because they're no longer readily available. I wish I'd bought more when they were available at the Toys R Us that was a few blocks from where I used to live. Oh, the foolishness when we take things for granted. I thought they'd be available forever. $2003. What was 2003? Was that the air? 6, 5, 4, 3, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, 2000, 1, 2, 3. Curious, which ones do you think that is? Doesn't seem to be a whole lot. Yes. Now, more than likely, what would end up happening is you'd put the shell in the blaster and then muzzle load the rockets, rather than actually carrying a bunch of rocket shells, because it would take less time to reload from the muzzle than it would probably take to load a new shell. But the ability to swap to rockets would be awesome. Yeah, Mega XL, there was a short run, and it's a shame because it was the coolest new ammo type they'd come out with since Mega or Rival. Ultra was a joke. Hyper was a mess. N-Series is stupid. Mega XL was cool. It was a big dart. It flew well. It was easily identifiable. It was fun. The blasters were way too big and bulky, but, you know, it was a big dart, and give it a big blaster. Sure, I understand that, but, you know, give us a knockout-sized jolt that'll fire them, which, of course, we then went and did. Yeah, that's what I thought came out that year. I have them all. They're on my wall. Meh. Other than the Titan, the Unity power system came out that year, I believe, and the Titan is still my favorite ammo type. That I wish they would bring back, just so I could get more of the rockets. Because you can never have too many Titan rockets. I only have 54 of them, which is just not enough. I do have the Nerf foam ball, and the Super Ball, and the flying disc. The Night Finder is a solid blaster. The Tech Target Eliminator is a solid blaster. The Fire Strike was a solid blaster. They had a lot of solid single-shot pistols back in the day. It's weird that they kind of lost the ability to do that. Suction cup darts are fun. Plus you have a surface to shoot them at. I'm surprised Nerf doesn't currently have just Nerf footballs or like the Vortex football with fins thing. Somewhere I've got a bunch of the little dog ball rockets. It's got its own little launcher. Those were fun. One of the I don't know if it's a tragedy. Again, it's the nature of capitalism, unfortunately, is how short all blasters runs are these days. We got so much stuff for the Strife. So many body kits, internal kits, full auto kits, select fire kits. Because the Strife was the best blaster that Hasbro had made, and it was on the shelf for a decade. Now, every time someone comes out with a blaster that's, even remotely similar to the Strife, everyone's like, is this the Strife killer? And then it's on the shelf for 6 months and then disappears. So even if we had developed stuff for it, you can't get it. Which is largely why we as a hobbyist went to just making our own stuff. It's also why Worker, originally they made internal parts for Nerf blasters, but then Nerf started retiring the blasters that Worker was making their internals for, and they're like, well, why don't we just make our own shells that can take all of these parts? So they did that, and then they're like, why are we doing this now? We could just make our own blasters from the ground up, and that's why we now have such amazing Worker stuff, because they're just making it from the ground up using all of our R&D. The closest I think that anything has come, again, it depends on how long it stays around, was the Maxim, the Dart Zone Maxim, because it would take a lot of Strife kits. I believe it used a Strife cage. And so you could use that on it, and then I think it also was designed to be easily converted to solenoid, if I remember correctly. I got a pair, and they're still in their box wherever that is. Yeah, it's not recommended to leave a spring compressed, though it's my understanding it's not leaving it compressed that's as much of the issue as, or it doesn't create as much wear and tear as repeated compressions. But no, you don't want to leave them loaded because it will wear out the spring, just because they're not the best quality of springs, because it's Hasbro. Good news is you could get replacement springs. just by buying like knockoff rival magazines and taking the springs out and putting them into the tubes. You might be able to do it on the Artemis. I don't know about the Hades. The Hades is a much longer tube. Maybe if you double stacked them. The Mega Strife? You mean the Moto Fury? No, Moto Blitz? No, yeah. Moto Strike. I like it. I've got a modified one. Which, the next time I go to Survival Fest, I may just run a modified Moto Strike the whole weekend. I've got a whole bunch of the old 12-round Busby Mega Mags, so I could absolutely make a Mega-only loadout and just go super zombie hunting. Though the better plan would be to just run a... What is that thing? Ultra 2, my Mega Ultra 2. It shoots the Mega very good. There's some absolutely mangled... Yeah, that sounds about par for the course for Hasbro. The blaster that I would probably carry as my Mega would be my Ultra 2 that's been converted to take Mega. Because it's semi-automatic and it's a pistol and it's a revolver and it'd be easy to top up and I have holsters for it and that would probably be what I would go with. If I wanted a really light loadout, I'd probably run that and one of my Elite Dart Moto or Ultra 2s. And then something that can fire Mega XL. Yeah, I saw one at a Goodwill recently. I kind of regret not grabbing it. I've got a bunch of them. Yeah, it was... it was another ridiculous missed opportunity. Hasbro finally came up with a genuinely innovative design. A rear-loaded revolver. That's an awesome concept. It's way easier to reload than a front-load revolver. You can see how full or empty it is. When it's in your holster, you can see how close you are to empty when you've got it, out, because you can see the cylinder from behind. You can top up from behind. It was a great design, but they chambered it in Ultra. If they had chambered that in Elite or Half Dart, I'm kind of surprised nobody's made a Half Dart blaster like that yet. It would have been great. It would have been fantastic to have an Elite version of that. Which is, of course, what we did. We just printed an Elite cylinder and a few other changes, and I've got a pair, and they're fantastic. But again, just a Hasbro fumble. There's an off-brand one that you can get. The problem is it's got lousy motors. And unfortunately, we no longer have Honey Badgers, which were the great motor to put in there because you could run them on double A's. And so you didn't have to change anything but the motors. Just swap the motors over and you're good. You didn't need to replace the switches or the wiring or anything. And you could get good performance out of it. But then they took away our Honey Badgers, which is a tragedy. Yeah, Ultra, but worse, And the annoying thing is that they went with an ammo that it's not easy to rechamber because they're thicker than Elite Darts, but shorter. So, like any of their muzzle-loaded blasters, some of them, like straight muzzle-loaded ones, you can just rechamber it. Just 3D print a shim that goes into the barrel and rechambers it for Elite. But the revolvers, you can't really do that unless there's enough clearance in front of the cylinder for you to get an Elite Dart in there. Now, you could rechamber it for Half Darts. Maybe. Yeah. Hasbro, what are you doing? No, we are unfortunately not Hasbro's target audience. We should be, because if we could grow our hobby bigger because Hasbro actually backed us, it would increase their sales so much it's ridiculous. Because pretty much every house in America has a Nerf blaster. But if more people in America knew about the Nerf wars we run, and if there were more Nerf wars, people would be buying a dozen Nerf blasters. But Hasbro doesn't in any way affiliate themselves with the community that is built around their stuff, or used to be built around their stuff. Now it's built around their competitors' stuff, because their competitors listen to us. Yeah, having all the different ammo types. Now, the nice thing about Survival Fest is that it doesn't require... If you just had Mega XL, that will take out everything. There isn't a zombie that can't be taken out by Mega XL. Now, there are zombies that can be taken out by... that can't be taken out by Mega, but there isn't something that you have to... that only Mega works. And there isn't stuff that only Rival works, or only... it's... something can be taken out by the ammo it's in its tier and any tier above it. So you can just run... You know, like if you just want to have a lot of ammo, you would go with, you know, a Rival blaster or a half-dart blaster. And then a Mega XL blaster will have you covered. Or you run in a squad, and everybody has a main blaster that fires, you know, Rival or half darts or whatever, and then a special of one type or another. So you always have someone in your squad that can cover whatever you're run up against. So it's not all on each person to carry everything. Now, the other option is to carry something that takes shells that can fire all the different ammo. And to have enough advanced warning to know to switch. This is what Boomstick did. He ran a Shellfish, which is a silly butts revolver. Takes silly shells and as a revolver. And so he had it loaded with buckshot, just, you know, 6 elite darts. Or 6 half darts. And then when we got word that there was a whole bunch of supers coming, he switched to Mega XL. And it was actually really cool to watch because the shells eject out the front, and he just spun the cylinder and it ejected all of the buckshot shells, and then he just loaded in Mega shells, or Mega XL shells, and the Shellfish, you can turn off the ejection. So it didn't eject the Mega XL shells, he could then just barrel load them. Like I said, it's sometimes easier to barrel load. Yeah, N1 series is rubbish. I also would prefer them to just bring back N-Strike. Really, I'd like them to bring back N-Strike Elite. You know, but with upgraded versions, Lord, they gave us the Strife X, and then they didn't give us a Long Shot X, and an Alpha Trooper X, and a Rapid Strike X. And again, you're like, Hasbro, what are you doing? You were right there. Yeah, Strife X was flash in the pan. I'm glad I grabbed a second one when I had the chance. So I have 2. the one that they sent me, which is the only thing Hasbro has ever sent me. I still don't know how Out of Darts wrangled that. Absolute madness. Alright. This is all extra. This is above and beyond the half darts that I went to the event with. The whole tote. Actually, for the longest time, the majority of my audience was 35 or above. Because my channel was all how to upgrade blasters, and that was more of the older crowd. We've got a lot of younger crowd now. Never did really get that 12-year-old demographic. That's where the money is, apparently. That's what Coop's target audience was. That's who Wallcom's current target audience is, and it worked for him. Pretty sure I lost some rival this time, but that's okay. It happens. Finally getting around to a project I've been meaning to do for a while. Crewman Rocket wanted some half-dart hammer shots, and he tried printing the cylinders, and it didn't go well. And so I'm going to try to print the cylinders in TPU and then put brass barrel inserts. And I'm hoping that works. We gonna find out. Alright. Last of the full lengths. Time to upgrade the tote. Where's the new totes? I got new totes. Alright, we're going from 17-gallon totes to 27-gallon totes. I got my doubts about whether that's actually a 10-gallon difference. We're going to dump this. What do we got? spot checking to make sure there aren't any FVJs in here. This is someone else's dart bin that I am consolidating. But I trust they probably vetted them pretty good. But you never know. I found one in my bin today, so... Well, you're older than me by 2 decades, but not the oldest person I've had in my live streams. I don't think. Oh, here's why we check. That's an FVJ. They sneak in there. They're wily. Yeah, somebody had a whole bunch of purple men gun darts. Very nice. Never heard anything bad said about men gun darts. Some waffle heads don't work well in sealed breeches, but men guns tend to. They've got a smaller head. Somebody a while back asked about the Dart Zone Brute. Or rather, the Adventure Force Brute. And the question was it just a surplus of Mark 2.1 internals? And you know, that's entirely possible. And if so, I'm here for it, because the Brute's a lot cheaper than the Mark 2.1. And comes with 2 6-round Nightingale mags. And that I like. Alright. Now I've got a little more room for full-length darts. But I have about 54 gallons. There's my finger. Lovely. Alright. No. I have more. Never mind. Never ends. It never ends. Anybody still there? Am I just talking to myself at this point? I will happily do so. I will be undeterred. Did my chat just freeze? The stream shut down? No, still streaming. Just talking to myself, I guess. You know, the kind of sponsorship I would love for the Makerspace would be Dart Zone just to send me 10,000 darts a year or something. Aha! This is why we check. They sneak in. Pernicious. Luckily, they're easy to spot if you know what to look for. Yes, I'm, the darts are sorted. I'm now just checking an overflow bin of full lengths for FVJs and Vauberries before adding them to the now expanded full dart bins. I went from 17-gallon bins to 27-gallon bins and needed a few more darts. I have about 10 gallons of additional half darts. Pretty sure those were actually somebody else's from the comp loaner bin. But we shall survive. Yeah, that's what I'm doing. I got a bin of trash. Darts that were worn out, darts that were missing their heads, FVJs, Vowberries, that kind of thing. Go ahead. I got sent a blaster for review once, and I don't know if it was on purpose or on accident, but none of the darts had heads. They were just foam shafts. Had a ridiculous rate of fire in about a 10-foot range. Perfect. Just enough. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Okay. Now I have 108 gallons of ammo. Glorious. I'm back. There's no need to panic. What is the best way to get full lengths in bulk? I have a couple of brands on test and need some more. Well, personally, I favor the Adventure Force waffle, though I don't know how much longer that'll be available. That was the one that was available at Walmart, $200 for $10. Couldn't really beat that. It used to be possible to get 1,000 AccuFakes from like Lytake or whatnot for $14. Gosh, I wish I'd ordered a few more thousand back then. But AliExpress has AccuFakes. They're not nearly that cheap anymore, but they're still cheaper than anywhere else. And AccuFakes are usually fairly safe. The big issue is if you order like regular darts, you run the risk of getting FVJs or Vowberries if they're going to be cheap. So you got to be careful. Whereas AccuFakes are safe. Most waffle heads are going to be safe. I don't know where the old waffle heads came from anymore. They've got the new Meteor darts and whatever the other one is. I did a review recently. I was sent both. And they're both not bad, but they're... I mean, generally it's going to be 10 for 200, which isn't bad. That's what, 10 cents a dart? Or is it less than that? 5 cents a dart? 5 cents a dart. That's pretty good. I wish I could get Rival that cheap. AliExpress is also where you can get... I mean, I actually favor the 500 round bin on Amazon. Because not only do you get 500 rounds for like 30... somewhere between 34 and 36 bucks, but you get the bucket. And buckets are always handy. And a convenient denomination of bucket. It's a 500 round bucket. So, you know, if you want to store your ammo in buckets of 500, that works. Gallon buckets. I also have a lot of ice cream buckets that are a gallon. They hold about 350 rounds. So, the Amazon bucket holds more ammo. conveniently holds a nice amount of Mega XL as well. What? What? How dare? How dare you? Right? I would love for the the Adventure Force, the orange with the triangle pattern. They were the most consistent ammo outside of proton rounds. I also miss proton rounds. I just buy half darts at this point. If I travel to an event, if I'm staying somewhere, staying at a friend's place, often if I can, because it's cheaper than getting a hotel, I will order darts and just have them mailed to their place, so they're there when I get there, so I don't have to travel with them. Because if I'm going to like Maryland Mayhem or Survival Fest, I don't care if I come home with any of my ammo, so I will buy it and leave it, donate it to the club or whatever. Nice. New inbox whiteout deploy. That's a rare find. That is cool. Yeah, the FVJ has an actual rigid head. Vowberries have a somewhat squishy head. What's rigid is the base of the head, the part that actually gets glued into the foam. That part is hard. You can tear the rubber off of it and you have a hard disc on the inside, and it'll jam in flywheelers because it won't compress. And so we don't allow them, because if other people pick them up and they put them in their flywheelers, it can jam it. And we had somebody show up with like 20 mags full of Vowberries, and we were like, sorry, we don't allow those. And they were a little bit miffed about it, and they're like, fine. And they went to mag dump, and it jammed their blaster. They're like, the defense rests. Back in the day, when blasters didn't hit nearly as hard as they do now, but and so, you know, FVJs weren't as big of a problem because we were only firing 75 FPS. They stung a little bit more, but we were adults and we could handle that. But if you had a blaster that had been upgraded with aluminum wheels, when FVJs went through them, it made the most satisfying ting as they went through. Just a beautiful sound that you knew what was coming your way. I mean, yeah, I got lots of thoughts. Depends on what you want. There's any number of cages available for it. I think Out of Darts sells a cage for it. Obviously, they've got the wheels. They've got everything you could possibly need to upgrade your blaster. You can get from outofdarts.com. So it depends on what you want to do, how much you want to upgrade it. The easiest is throw some IFRs in it. That'll get you more power. If you want to get more, obviously you're going to need to put in new motors, upgrade the wiring, all of that jazz. The one kind of downside is the battery housing on the Demolisher leaves a lot to be desired because it's got them side by side rather than in a tube. So getting a lipo that'll fit in that battery housing can be a little bit tricky. But it's a fun one to modify. I've modified a Demolisher before. Alright, I'm almost done with my root beer, and I'm getting hungry. So, it's about time for me to put an end to this and go cook up a pizza and watch some Andor. Yeah, I took an FVJ right between the eye, or right in the forehead at an HVZ. I'm glad I was wearing iPro. It left a mark. and that's why we don't allow them. Some groups exclusively use them because you know when you've been hit, but, you know, to each their own. Running into a wall of FVJs at point blank range at, 120 FPS just does not sound like my idea of fun. Yeah, I've considered doing the building a recharging port onto blasters before as well. It's a neat idea. Somewhere in my vast plethora of stuff, I have a Nerf 6-round magazine with an FVJ halfway through it. It shattered the plastic and embedded the dart halfway through. And that came out of my 500 FPS Jolt. And that was my demonstration. Well, that video has long since been taken down. That was a bad idea. But it was a fun build. Fun thought experiment. Could I get a Jolt to 500 FPS? And technically, yes. Technically. And shot holes in my dart catching net. I was annoyed by that. And put an FVJ halfway through a magazine. So, yeah, I have it somewhere. I don't remember where. It's in a box. Could be up in the attic. Could be the box that's under my desk. I don't know what happened to the 500 FPS Jolt. I gave it to the Nerf curator, and I assume either he still has it or he gave it to Walcom when Walcom bought his collection. Absolute madness. I could definitely do a series of me going through all the bins that are upstairs because I have no idea what's in half of them. It's definitely a time overdue. Need to go through my hat bins again. Reorganize my hat bins. Yeah, see, that's why I use sleds. Sleds are much more durable. I need to get around to putting pool noodle around mine so I can actually use them again. Or, I'll use pipe insulation, but still need to get around to doing that. I don't know that I have any hammer shots upstairs. I've got a box full of in-box strifes upstairs. But I don't know that I have any hammer shots up there. I think the 2 hammer shots that I have in-box are out in the shipping container. And then I've got a bin that goes in my war trailer and an overflow bin, and then I've got ones out in the arena. A fancy hat rack would be cool. Take up a lot of space, though, and I am low on space. enough of this. I got food to eat, TV shows to watch. It's Friday night. I'm going to wash my hands. I got Lego to play with. I'm off. I'm gone. I'm off. Thank you for joining me all. Thanks for all the questions and all the commentary. This was fun. It does help make the dart sorting go by a lot faster. So thank you for watching.